If you ask almost anyone what their ultimate goal in life is, you'll usually hear the exact same response: I just want to be happy. We tend to treat happiness as a final destination. We imagine it as a finish line we cross only after we've acquired enough wealth, bought the right house, or finally escaped a frustrating job. We tie our joy entirely to perfecting our physical reality. The problem is that the physical world is incredibly stubborn. While we can gradually improve our circumstances, forcing a radical change to our external environment overnight is difficult, to say the least. Because those external barriers are so high, we easily fall into a loop of inaction. We build an endless list of omnipresent excuses. I want to get better trained, but I can't quit my job. Or I want to travel, but I can't save enough money. We naturally want to avoid that friction. Given the chance, most of us would gladly offload the burden of a painful life decision onto someone else, rather than taking personal ownership of the outcome. This avoidance leads to a dangerous mental state known as poverty thinking. If a person believes their rigid physical limitations entirely dictate their worth, those limitations become their actual ceiling. If you think you will achieve nothing, you guarantee that exact result. By insisting that everything around us must be perfect before we can be content, we trap ourselves in chronic inaction, waiting for a flawless physical reality that will never actually arrive. There is a universal truth my grandfather continually reinforced: you create your own reality. This doesn't mean you can magically alter physical space. It means placing the emphasis on the I, taking absolute ownership of your internal mental state, which is the only thing you truly control. To test the limits of this idea, we can look at the severe example of psychiatrist Dr. Viktor Frankl in a World War II death camp. Stripped of absolutely all external agency, possessions, and comfort, Frankl managed to survive extreme physical atrocities. He did this by completely shifting his internal perception of meaning and purpose when his external world was entirely out of his hands. This brings us to a much older, more robust definition of contentment. Aristotle tells us that a person is happy who lives in accordance with complete virtue over a complete life. This animated diagram illustrates the difference. Instead of a linear path ending at a fixed destination, Aristotle defines happiness as a continuous loop of action and virtue. True happiness remains entirely decoupled from perfect external circumstances, so experiencing hardship doesn't suspend your overall journey. We can apply this framework to extreme scenarios, like the two climbers who recently perished attempting to summit Nanga Parbat, the world's 9th highest mountain. By any external metric, their expedition was a tragic failure. But under Aristotle's definition, they died in a state of happiness because they were fully engaged in the specific, demanding process that they loved. The mother of one of those men was Alison Hargreaves, a famous international climber who conquered Mount Everest and embodied this philosophy of internal control. Her guiding motto perfectly captured this choice: it is better to have lived one day as a tiger than to have lived 1,000 days as a sheep. When your internal process aligns completely with your life's purpose, you retain your dignity and joy. Even the ultimate physical failure of death cannot destroy that. This collection of perceptions, self-worth, self-respect, and personal determination, builds what we call inner strength. Taking ownership of your pace of life allows the mental dust to clear, reframing painful experiences not as permanent damage, but as temporary learning tools. We can apply this exact same internal lens to understand the people around us. Consider an everyday anecdote: an elderly woman at a gas station, caught in a screaming match with an attendant because she felt overcharged by a very small amount of money. Through a standard external lens, this looks completely irrational. It appears to be an embarrassing, meaningless conflict over a few trivial pennies. But when you look at it through the lens of internal perception, the situation changes. To a woman who likely grew up in severe poverty, those few pennies represent immense perceived reality. In her world, that tiny amount of money carries actual, significant value. Finding meaning in these moments requires an operational framework. The followers of Jainism believe that all life has value, and we can adopt this belief to seek understanding in every human action we observe. Ultimately, what bridges the gap between the external world we face and the internal world we build is human determination. As the great baseball manager Tommy Lasorda pointed out, determination is the only actual difference between the impossible and the possible. So, rather than waiting for your external conditions to perfectly align, take control of your internal reality today. Own your piece of life, look for understanding in others, and actively search for something magical and beautiful every single day.